Escape from the lunar base. The FTE-1000 cargo and tugboat is just one of many space platforms that perform services in the space surrounding planet Earth, collecting ores, potential space debris that could be harmful to the planet's security, and conducting extensive research on its missions. From possible interferences and anomalies in the Milky Way to creating secret projects for new intelligence research in search of extraterrestrial life. These missions last for months and even years, requiring a minimal crew of people who for a certain period only remain docked in their resting chambers, with only the commander utilizing their power to navigate the cargo ship, using automatic routes in search of success in the mission while the others sleep safely on the platform. On another one of several collection missions, Commander Brian is on his way to Mars, so there is still a long journey of many months to complete all his research tasks on planet Earth. In this case, the current mission is to explore and collect the new mineral named XB, very rare and crucial for the industry and various machinery implements for human life. However, Commander Brian altered this course soon after leaving Earth because through his radars and advanced search mechanisms, signals were emitted from a location on the Moon that had not yet been explored by astronauts or previously appeared as some research concluded by some space project. This caught his attention, and he decided to take a spacecraft and enter lunar orbit, departing from his cargo ship towards the area on the Moon. Upon landing safely on the lunar surface, he began his exploration towards an area that the signal had determined to the cargo ship, starting to explore the depths using his mobile car and trying to visualize some detail with a different ore. At a certain point, Commander Brian found himself unable to continue driving his car as access became difficult, and he continued to walk in search of success in the mission. With his manual mineral research device, he approached a location that indeed emitted sounds and signals to his radar, but the path became increasingly difficult and complicated until he finally found the exact point, the sound epicenter being transmitted from there, indicating that something significant was sending concrete signals of some ore or phenomenon yet to be discovered. Upon descending into a vast area far from his car, Brian managed to reach the bottom, which seemed like a huge crater possibly created by a meteor thousands of years ago. This area, besides being enormous, was full of rocks, and at its central point, where the signal on the radar became very strong, was flat and clean, prompting the commander to start digging the ground in search of some answers. Soon, he discovered that it was only a thin layer of mineral dust, and beneath this sand lay a massive spherical entrance, like a giant lid. As he walked further towards the central part, he found a passage with stairs and some lighting, which encouraged him to continue his journey to see where it would lead. He turned off his radar to avoid making sounds and began to enter the place like a spy. He didn't know what he might find there, and before proceeding, he sent a message to his cargo ship, showing his location and transmitting a video with audio, explaining what he had discovered and which location was to his crew, who were still dormant. After this contact, he continued to walk towards the depths of that place, through narrow and dark walkways. He soon realized that this was a secret and unexplored base by humans. Perhaps it was a secret project or even an extraterrestrial scientific base. The deeper he delved, the more he discovered that it was a base with technological and scientific laboratory parts, as well as chambers with test subjects for studies and experiments. As he investigated and got closer to these chambers, he was terrified when he discovered that there were human bodies being researched. They were corpses that were only attached to wires and membranes, as if being used for a terrifying experiment involving organ cloning and studies for medicinal purposes, diseases, or simply the mechanism of the human body. The commander observed nothing about his safety, but he concluded that no one else would be present in this laboratory. Therefore, he continued trying to enter other parts of the base, reaching another section that seemed to be a large hall, where there seemed to be a lecture for many listeners, who were seated, and he could only notice that they were wearing helmets and could be soldiers. The speakers seemed to be the leader and had an indecipherable language, giving orders and outlining a plan to be fulfilled through a screen. Brian hid and carefully observed the entire lecture, and he also understood that it was a plan to invade planet Earth, attacking the main powers with their fleet of spacecraft, destabilizing the entire system with plagues, laboratory-made diseases, and using their advanced technology of their weapons to annihilate humanity completely. All the mineral and environmental wealth would then be under the power of this base, which seemed to be just a small point of contact for more space bases. But who were these conspiring to invade planet Earth? That's when Commander Brian ended up panicking. As soon as the plan he was passing on to his soldiers ended, the screen, which previously only showed graphics and maps, now displayed the leader's face. It was an extraterrestrial. Beings from another planet and totally unknown to humans. Quickly, the commander returned through the corridors, past the laboratory, and ran back to the surface frightened. He didn't stop until he reached his car, and always looking back, he moved as fast as he could to his spacecraft. When he flew as fast as he could to his cargo ship, he activated the opening of the FTE-1000, but nothing happened. He tried to contact the crew, but no one responded, leading him to conclude that they were still unconscious in the chambers. Without the command to enter the cargo ship, he had only one way to do it. He left the spacecraft in a parallel position to the cargo ship, near an emergency entrance, and, using the propulsion of his suit, he reached this entrance, but all this had to be done quickly and without errors. To his amazement, the emergency entrance was already open. It was not sealed, so Brian waited for the worst. Something had happened while he was out exploring the secret base he found on the moon, so he stealthily entered the cargo ship and observed, horrified, that inside there were the same beings he had seen in the lunar base. Seeing the movement they made, it seemed that they were studying the controls of the cargo ship, inspecting the dependencies of the platform, and continued to walk through the ship until they passed to another compartment of the FTE-1000. It was at that moment that he managed to reach the controls and see through the cameras that the beings had gone to the last compartment, where the minerals and materials collected were stored, and began to study the properties of each element there. Seeing that all the extraterrestrials were there in that compartment, Brian acted quickly and closed all the doors, sealing all the exits and leaving the beings completely trapped in the cargo ship. Terrified, he didn't think twice. He went to the ship's command and uncoupled the compartment where the beings were, launching them into space. In no time, this compartment entered the moon's atmosphere and was eventually destroyed in flames, disintegrating until it disappeared completely. He still needed to see how his crew was, as they were still unconscious, in a state of hibernation for days. Brian finally understood what had happened since he left the cargo ship to explore the moon. He had fallen into an ambush by the unknown beings. From the secret lunar base, they had deliberately sent signals to the cargo ship so that some contact would be made, and then they would have the opportunity to take over the FTE-1000 platform. By invading the cargo ship through the emergency entrance, the aliens then studied the entire ship. As for the cargo ship's crew, Brian checked all the hibernation chambers and made a terrible realization. The entire crew was alive, but with a horrible metamorphosis. They had undergone a rapid mutation, where they lost their human characteristics, taking on the appearance of the beings that were on the cargo ship. Their vital signs were functioning, but now they had turned into clones, serving as subjects for alien experiments. Still shocked by what had happened, Brian didn't have many options and ended up sealing all the hibernation chambers and, seeing that they were now alien beings, he turned off the machines that kept them breathing and alive. His crew was therefore all dead. Brian was devastated, but as a commander of a research and mission cargo ship, he was prepared, knowing and calculating all the risks of having to one day choose between saving himself from contamination or returning to Earth with unknown and lethal organisms to humanity. He also calculated that perhaps there would be elements in the air inside the cargo ship or even some substance from experiments performed on the crew that could pose a huge security risk to the mission, so he took off his suit and underwent a total decontamination of his body. In a final and radical action to escape and return to Earth totally safe, he programmed his cargo ship for self-destruction and prepared a capsule to re-enter Earth's atmosphere since his smaller ship would not have enough fuel for such an action. He prepared with a new spacesuit and entered the capsule, soon leaving the FTE-1000 cargo ship. From afar, he saw its total explosion, forming a large fireball, disintegrating in space. Now it was time to return to Earth using the controls of his capsule, trying to establish communication and staying safe from the enormous temperature of re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. The capsule, after much turbulence, turned into a fireball and managed to pass through the Earth's atmosphere swiftly, like a comet. It fell into a sea region, which Brian didn't remember at all, as he lost consciousness completely, waking up very disturbed and confused. With great difficulty, he opened the capsule compartment and managed to reach the shores of a beach, where he collapsed exhausted. Brian, still confused and on the beach shore, saw a huge spacecraft arrive above him, float, and descend with two extraterrestrials, who surrounded and captured him, taking him inside the spacecraft and placing him in a hibernation chamber, like his old crew was. Finally, the commander had a last realization of what had really happened. He could now understand the language of the extraterrestrial beings, as he heard the two beings talking. This one here is the guinea pig who rebelled against the humans and did not complete his metamorphosis. For some reason, he escaped transformation like the rest of the crew, discovered our secret base on the moon, and returned to his cargo ship, programming it for self-destruction. The curious thing is that he did not return to our lunar base to try to destroy us. Why do you think that is? Brian was terrified and quickly understood everything upon hearing the alien's last words. This guinea pig did not return because he acted according to his instincts. The mutation transformed him into half human and half like us. He had delayed metamorphosis, which made him go to our base and return to destroy his ship upon discovering the fate of his crew. At the same time, his image is now like ours, however, he is still disposable.
Superfixer is a sci-fi short story channel, serving as the catalyst for concepts about technology, science, the universe, and science fiction.